Last week, Elon Musk announced that we're all living in a computer game. I ignored it at the time. I've been very busy with money work, and I wanted to see what the reaction would be in the world at large. And I am not disappointed to say that I am extremely disappointed in the reaction that has ensued. I'm not being fair to Musk, I promise you, that what he said was couched as a pseudo-intellectual proposition, that the odds are billions to one against the idea that we're living in a base reality, which means, in other words, that the reality that no one disputes exists, the reality that no one doubts exists, the reality that Elon Musk, I promise you, does not doubt exists, is in some hypothetical sense in doubt in his pretend imagination when he's jacking off in public in front of a crowd full of like-minded morons. No one doubts the existence of existential reality. No one doubts the existence of the objective world outside the mind. No one doubts the consistent results that all of us achieve when we set about to prove that reality doesn't really exist. No one doubts that behaving stupidly, making insanely stupid choices will result in devastating tragedy. No one doubts that engaging in vicious behavior will result in vicious consequences. No one doubts any of these things, including Elon Musk. And if you want proof of that, go slash the man's tires and see how he reacts. Go spray paint his front door. Go do something truly atrocious to his mom and see how the man reacts. No one doubts the existence of existential reality. They just pretend to on TV. This is revolting to me. This is disgusting. But I wanted to see how the rest of the intellectual marketplace would react, and of course the reaction was amazingly poor. We had resistance from the Christians, who have an alternative, ridiculous, fantastical theory to promote. We had zero resistance from the world of objective science, from the actual scientists making these incontroverted, completely consistent claims about the nature of the world outside the mind. We had rah-rah cheerleading from the usual gang of idiots, in this case led by Instapundit Glenn Reynolds, who, for all of his self-portraiture as a libertarian, seems more to me to be a conservative fantasticist. Conservative in his politics, very Republican in his politics, not libertarian, and deeply enamored of any ridiculous idea, any completely stupid idea. But the rebellion, the reaction that I was mainly looking for was to have come from the Ayn Rand Institute, from the self-proclaimed defenders of the real, of the reality, of the existence that does exist. Existence exists and consciousness is identification. These are the two axioms that undergird official objectivism. And when Elon Musk says that the universe is a video game, what he's saying is that existence does not exist. He's saying that your real-time awareness of your real-life existence in the existential world, in the undoubted reality that is in existence all around you. He's saying that your awareness of that, your consciousness of that, is an illusion, and that none of that reality actually exists. That if there is a base reality, it's not the one that you're living in. You are living in a simulated reality. The absurdity of all of this is just unbelievable. This is sophomore jacking off that goes back to Descartes, and before it goes back to Plato, and before it goes back to the sophists among the Greeks. This has an ancient history and philosophy, and all of it is ridiculous. No one believes any of this nonsense, from solipsism to the idea of consciousness as a delusion, the non-existence of free will, the belief that one is simply dreaming this entire universe, the idea of a holographic universe, the many worlds theory of quantum mechanics, and this ridiculous notion that what you regard as the reality that's occurring all around you is in some sense a computer simulation. Musk insists that because computer simulations have gotten so good since the invention of Pong, that it must be the case that they've gotten even better than that and we're living in one and just don't know it. Well, if we are living in a simulation created by people intelligent enough to create simulations in which the simulated people are unaware of their simulated status, then why couldn't it be the case that we are in fact created by those simulated people and not by the original people? Why isn't it the case that we are an infinite number of simulations away from the original simulation, each new simulated population growing in its postulated, completely hypothetical, imaginary intelligence to the point that it can create its own new simulation? Why isn't it simulations all the way down? Why isn't it turtles all the way down? These arguments are obscenely stupid. They are amazingly stupid, and I can disabuse anyone who pretends to believe in the unreality of reality. I can disabuse that person of that notion within 5 minutes. You put me in the presence of that person, and I will start throwing things at that individual until he begs me to stop. And in begging me to stop, he will admit, number one, real things are happening. Number two, they have real consequences in the form of pain to that person's body. Number three, that I am completely capable of volitionally controlling my behavior. Number four, that that person is capable of persuading me to affect that volitional self-control. And number five, that no one doubts any of this ever. No one ever doubts any of this. It is absurdly stupid to even indulge in this kind of conversation. When somebody starts jacking off in public, invite him to take his vices private. But do not indulge in this nonsense that the universe does not really exist. There is one real universe that exists outside of your mind. You are completely aware of it, so is everyone around you. And everything that happens because causal forces were set into motion, and that those causal effects are unavoidable once those causes are set into motion. We're not going to address determinism now, but that's more of the same idiot nonsense. We have a specific identifiable nature, and in that nature, in the nature of all living organisms, is some sort of volition, some sort of will, some sort of cause that is not foreordained by prior physical causes. We know that all of this is true. It's why you train your dog and why you don't train the sand on the beach. Why you train your dog to pee in the yard and not in the house. Why do you train the sand on the beach not to blow into your house when the gusts kick up? Why don't you go out there and instruct that sand not to do that? If your dog can be trained, why can't the sand be trained? The reasons are obvious. All of these things are obvious. There is no possible doubt about the existence of existential reality, and introducing that kind of doubt is enormously, devastatingly consequential to the individual people who entertain that illogic, that irrationality. If you imagine a family that has been graced by a child suffering from congenital birth defects, you pick the severity, but the severity can be very severe. Are you willing to say to the people in that family, you deserved it? Or this is just the role that you picked in the game? If you don't like this, you can come back as Bowser, and what difference does it make anyway to Bowser? We are living through an epidemic of suicide in the West right now. What more absurd argument could you proffer to someone who is doubting the meaning of his own life than to insist that Bowser doesn't care how many times a day he dies? Super Mario's going to kick Bowser's ass, and he's going to kick Bowser's ass in the next game too. Bowser's ass is going to get kicked 1,000 times today and 10,000 times tomorrow, and what difference does it make? This is what Elon Musk is effectively saying to people who doubt the meaning in their lives. We can borrow from the objectives and definition swap one term into two and say that matter matters. The thing that exists ontologically has importance teleologically to organisms, and especially to us as rationally conceptual organisms. Matter matters. The human life has an importance, has an inherent dignity, has meaning, and those things are manifestations of reality. And when you insist that reality doesn't exist, or free will doesn't exist, or that all seemingly self-motivated behavior is causally unavoidable by deterministic causes, when you make a war on human efficacy, you are making war on human beings. You're making war on the meaning that matters to their lives. And so it's not simply sophomoric jacking off, simply mindless, philosophical, irrational speculation. It is not simply that when someone like Elon Musk insists that we're all living in a computer simulation. It is amazingly, devastatingly consequential. You are telling people that they are doomed. You are robbing them of the meaning of their lives. You are robbing them of their accomplishments. And you are encouraging them to set an insanely low value on the future consequences of their present-day choices. Reality exists. We all know it. No one doubts it. And it is a grievous offense to suggest otherwise. Elon Musk should be ashamed of himself. Anyone who makes an argument like this, even in jest, should be ashamed of himself. You don't actually owe anyone anything. But my take is that by being alive, you will set an example for other people. And the example you set should be a good one. And you certainly should not lead people to misery, to suicide, to self-doubt, and to the deprecation of the future by engaging in absurd, insanely stupid, pseudo-philosophical masturbation in public. Shame on you, Elon Musk. And shame on anyone who makes war on reality. My name is Greg Swan. This is the Church of Splendor, and don't doubt this is a church. I'll talk to you again next week.